thank you very much for having me. It's only my second time to Sydney, and I'm really enjoying my time here. I heard on the way out that the morning has gone really well, which just leaves more pressure for me to kind of continue the momentum. So hopefully we'll have fun over the next 45 minutes or so, or 44 minutes and 46 seconds. As he said, I work at Google. I work in Asia-Pacific marketing, and today we're going to be talking about something along the lines of blue screen, but not the blue screen. Hold on. All goes well in Tech Run. Can someone fix this in a second? What happens when creativity meets technology? And so really, I'm really excited to be here with the local creative community. I mean, from what I've seen, the work in Australia has been phenomenal. I mean, the out-of-home work that you guys are pushing forward, a lot of digital work is great. So I'm not here to tell you about creativity. I'm almost here to tell you how a company like Google thinks about creativity and how we approach marketing. So with that, a couple of the things that I want to start out with talking to you about Google is just a couple points. One, we're an engineering company. I think this is a no-brainer to anyone who doesn't work at Google. But for me, being at Google 9 months, this is not just a statement. This is a way of life. We were founded by engineers. Our latest CEO and newest CEO, Larry, was one of the founders, is an engineer. Everyone holds some type of science degree, and all of the senior management are pretty much come from an engineering background. Me, as a marketing and computer science major, I'm almost ashamed that I'm not a good computer scientist when I work at Google, but I think it's part of the culture. And so what does that mean for people who work at Google in marketing? Basically, it means that people at Google, no matter what they do, love to solve big ideas. And I think it's an ethos that is created from the engineering culture that really is permeated across all functions. And in my first interactions, engineers, I mean, they're interesting people. They're so unique. And I think they look at the world through a different lens than most of us. I mean, I think most of us look at the world and they see what they see, and they accept about 80 or 90% of it, of that's how it is. An engineer looks at the world and asks questions around why, or how come, or why not. I think a lot like some of the best creative directors in the world. I think a lot of you saw that Google created this driverless car thing a couple months ago. You know, and I think, but what a lot of you may not know is why we did it. You know, we didn't do it just because we could do it or because we thought it would be fun. We did it because an engineer asked a very simple question. He said, there are more than 1.2 million people in America that die from traffic accidents. How can I help these people? What can technology do to help make that problem better? That's the inception point of the driverless car, because through technology, we can actually, we believe, or he believes, that we can reduce that 1.2 million by almost half. And the team is just getting started. There's tons of other upside to this project, from eco-friendly fuel efficiency, car sharing, all types of things that we'll get into. But what interests me as a new person at Google is, like, it wasn't just because we could. We actually were trying to solve a problem with that. And that's at the core of what computer scientists do. Which leads me to my second point, that ideas can come from anywhere. This is something that, you know, anyone who works at Google at any age, at any level, will tell you it's 100% true. And one of the examples I want to show you is actually right here in Australia. When the floods hit in Australia, you know, Google had a rapid response team that created a number of searchable maps, that had a number of layers, that pulled data from real-time sources from all over the country, from government websites, informed people about road closures, power outages, all different types of alerts. And it was up, I think, in a matter of days from when the initial flood hit. Coming from another large corporation like Nike, this initiative was not started by some CR group. It wasn't some big vice president in Mountain View that said, we need to do something about this. It was an engineer in Sydney who felt personally obligated to use his knowledge and his power to do this and help people in Australia. And I think that's the power of just embracing the fact that ideas can come from anywhere. I've worked at a lot of large corporations, and what makes me sad sometimes is I think in other companies, that engineer would have been like, actually, you know what? That's not your problem. Don't worry about that. And we would have lost a really important piece of project that actually helped millions or thousands of people. And so I think the idea is the idea that ideas can come from anywhere, I think, is something that's really key to embrace. On the flip side of that, when we talk about when marketers and engineers get together, we always have a lot of fun. And so engineering have let me step back. Part of the job at Google, a lot of people ask me, what do marketing people at Google do? Part of that job is bringing technology to people. We have a lot of great technology people at Google, but not a lot of people know about it. So part of our job is, how do we bring it together? How do we connect it with the right people? Another way we talk about is bringing the toys to the kids. On Christmas Day, if you have a lot of toys, getting them to the right kids makes all the difference in the world. And I think YouTube is a great example of that. An example where an engineering team has created a platform that's so phenomenal, that's so powerful, that as marketers, all we have to do is actually bring content to it, fill the pipeline, and connect that content with the right people. And so when Google talks about think big, big ideas don't come from anywhere, this is a great example, or Life in a Day is a great example of what that means. Frequently, Google hosts these open forums where we say, okay, this week, anyone who has a good idea, let us know. Anyone in the company. And last summer, a 25-year-old marketing coordinator from London named Tim Partridge had this idea, or this dream. He said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could create a documentary about one single day on the planet Earth? And what would that look like? And so he put up a little 2-minute video. He emailed it to the senior partners, and they loved it. And a year later, this project called Life in a Day was born, which I want to play for you. So it's amazing. We partnered with Ridley Scott. We collected 80,000 clips of video from that day. The film recently debuted to very high praise at Sundance, and we streamed it live to 13 million people on YouTube. And it will debut in theaters. So in Australia, I think probably later this year, you can try to catch it in a theater near you. But I think in a company of 25,000 people, these are two examples, or examples of two kind of regular people having a real impact on the community and actually what the Google brand stands for. And so when we talk about the idea that ideas can come from anywhere, we're really excited. And that was not the right click. Sorry. The last Google thing I want to talk about is this idea of test and iterate. And it's another principle that is ingrained in everyone's head at Google, and it comes from the culture of engineering. And the culture brings words like fail fast, launch early, launch often, always be testing. And those are things that engineers do, but when you think about it as marketers, we actually have a lot of opportunity to embrace that type of thinking to try to get the best work that connects with the right people into the market. And the quote where we say, there's no good substitute for understanding how real people in real-world situations actually operate is the foundation of that principle. And once again, we practice what we preach on the product side. At any given moment, Google is running 50 to 200 search experiments to a small group of people on Google.com. That comes out to about 6,000 search experiments a year. So when we say we're testing something, when people think that search is done or that search can't innovate, 6,000 ideas are coming to you, or to 1% of you, on a given day. And I think the idea of test, iterate, fail fast, launch early, launch often are really core principles of what we believe is good marketing and a good brand. So over the next kind of 30 minutes or so, I kind of want to take you on a journey and show you how Google actually implements some of these ideas in the real world for real people. The work I want to show you it's kind of an evolution. It's kind of a journey. And I'll tell you, it's very imperfect. Google's still a very young marketing company. So a lot of it is test and iterate, fail fast. But if anything, I think it's a very googly approach to how we would launch a product, which is why I thought it would be interesting to share with you guys today. The story I want to tell you is about innovation, it's about passion, and how we believe that one single product can really change the world. And so, it's the story of a product called Chrome. I don't know how many of you know this product, But it's the browser that's stronger than a comic book hero, faster than a speeding potato. And I know what you're all thinking. As creative people in the world, you're like, this is the easiest, most sexy product in the world to market. I mean, a browser, how hard could that be? Everyone knows what a browser is. Everyone uses it every day. It's free. But I think over the next 20 minutes, I want to show you another side of how we look at this and how difficult or how interesting marketing a product like this can be. So the first thing that I'm sure is on all of your minds is, why would we even invent a browser? Why Chrome? If you think back to like 2008, you know, what was going on in 2008, do we really need another browser? I mean, we had a good browser. 95% of you used Internet Explorer, and it was fine. It was really interesting, it worked, it did what you needed to do, and I think that was great. But secretly, you know, I think the question is, was there some kind of user browser uprising coming from the people? So we went to the people and we asked them about browsers, about what do they really think about this subject.
Find out, what is a browser?
A website that you can search on, I think.
I call it the search engine. That's what I call it with the browser.
What is a browser?
Browser's a search engine. Browse. It's a search engine. Browse. Right.
It's where I search through, like, to find things.
It's where you put your search terms, correct?
What is a browser?
Google. What else?
Browsers what you use to look at internet web pages.
What is a browser? I use the Yahoo. No, is that not a browser?
Do you know what the difference is between a search engine and a browser?
Well, not exactly. I mean, no. I don't know. I guess the internet is just where you know, find anything, and I guess you browse the same way. Hell, I don't know.
A browser is when you know what you're looking for, and a search engine is when you're searching for something.
I assume a browser is the way to get on, but
All right. I think you guys get the point. The idea is like, holy crap, 8% of the people don't even know the product category we're talking about, not just the product name. They don't even know what a browser is. We talk to a lot of people, and like, internally, we really relate browsers like tires. Everybody knows that tires on a car are important, but no one actually cares, or very few people care, which tires they have on their car. So it's a necessity, but they don't really know what it does. They don't know how it helps them. And I think that really was a really difficult place to start with. But I think no matter what people said, and no matter what people thought, we still had a vision. And we had a vision that we thought was good for users, and that was to move the web forward. Because at our heart, we're an innovation company. Sundar, who is the VP of Product Management for Google Chrome, had the quote, "For as much as the web has evolved, the browser platform has not evolved that much." And that's true. Originally, the browser did what it said. It browsed. For those of you old enough to have been on the internet in like 1993, it was a bunch of text. The first browser was invented in 1990. In 1990, we had VHS players, we had Walkmans, and we had faxes. But yet we still use this same product in a very similar fashion where none of those other products even exist anymore, except for maybe the fax, I guess, for government offices and things like that. But I think as the browser evolved, in 1994, we saw Netscape come on board, and that was like, okay, finally we can see images on a browser. We can see some basic coding, some basic formatting. That was great, and that was really where the web started to open up. In 1995, Microsoft followed Internet Explorer. But since 1995, really, nothing really new coming to the browser world, and that's where we thought there was an opportunity for us to go further. Actually, I'm going to go back one, sorry. I think if you look at the world today and what people are doing on the internet, what you guys are doing on the internet, it's more than browsing. You know, look at where we are today. People watch video, people upload video, people tweet, people use Facebook, people make phone calls, people video chat, people do chat roulette. Anything you can think of is done in this little window that has not changed in the last 10 years. Think about bandwidth. Every minute on YouTube.com, 35 hours of video are uploaded to the internet. 35 hours a minute. So before I finish this slide, 35 hours of video will be uploaded. That's the equivalent of Hollywood producing around 176,000 movies a week, is the bandwidth at which that consumes. That's how engaging people are becoming with the web. Today, over 100 billion emails and text messages will be sent. Today alone, 100 billion. There are 500 billion images on the web, and in the next 2 to 3 years, we think it'll go to 1 trillion images. Now, anything, when Google, we love the idea of scale. We love the idea of size. Anything that's going to go from 500 to 1 trillion cannot really exist on something that was built 10 years ago. Anything that's going to 100 billion in between 2 billion people cannot handle that. So that's where we really believe that a product like Chrome can really drive forward the web and how people use the web. But as marketers, the question is like, how the hell do we communicate this to people? Because we can't get them all in a room and give them a 30-minute lecture on it, because that's not going to work. So in 2008, we started with what we knew. We had this product, we thought it was good, but we started marketing it. And we started marketing it to people we knew, geeks, technorati, bloggers, innovators. We did online marketing because we didn't really know how to do anything else. We did really our first, I don't know, kind of offline marketing campaign. We made a comic book and we sent it to bloggers, and they really loved it, but that was at the stage we were at in 2008, which, we were a really strong brand, but we really didn't know what we were doing in marketing. And the funny story on the comic book, actually, that they tell internally is the comic book was released actually a day before the product was released, and so they kind of credit the mailroom team with launching the first version of Chrome because they were the first people to get communication into the marketplace on behalf of Google. That's kind of how unorganized we were at that time. But regardless of how kind of unorganized we were, we kind of had some success. 1% of people started to use Chrome. 1%. We love that. From 0 to 1% in 2 months. That's actually a pretty nice thing. And people were saying nice things about our product. And as communication people or as brands, anytime people say nice things about your product, you got to feel good about that. So we kind of knew we had something going on here. We had a little ember of an idea. But we also knew that we were really just at the top. We were really just scratching the surface of this thing. And that if we really wanted to get mass with this idea of Chrome and a cool browser, we really had to take things further, and we needed some more basic marketing skills. So we ran into this idea that every single person in this room has come up against. Why switch, right? Whether you're selling soda, bottled water, Nike sneakers, the idea is what I have today is good enough, why would I switch to something else that you have? And it's same with browsers. 95% of people, or 94% of people were using Internet Explorer, why the hell would they switch? And I think that in the early stages, we realized, and once again, very nascent marketing stages, that we needed some stuff like this idea of a value proposition, the idea of like clear communication benefits around what Chrome was. We had to find out what that was, but we weren't really sure how to do it. Well, we were sure how to do it, but we wanted to do it our way. So what do? We tested it. Test and iterate. We took every single value proposition we could possibly think of, and we made some kind of marketing around it, and we said, okay, let's see what works. We tested, browser education. Do we need to teach people what a browser is so that they can understand that we're better than them? Do we need to teach people, tell people that ours is faster, or ours is simpler, or ours is lighter? I mean, whatever we could think of, we made. And so I want to show you a couple of these examples just to give you an idea of really in the early, quote unquote, early days, how it was going. Let's see if I can zoom in. That was not right. We'll start with this one, actually. I can't get to it. Stop! All right. Clearly, we're experiencing some technical difficulties, but that's the test and iterate. We'll give this presentation tomorrow. It'll be much better. Feel free to come back. Okay, let's watch this from the top. So that was the idea that Chrome was simple. It was a very simple animation. And in true Google fashion, a small team in Japan made it. Google liked it, so what did they do? They put it on TV. And it turned out to be Google's first ever TV commercial, But we realized, well, maybe it actually doesn't work. And so I'm going to move over to another one to show you manually and see if we can get that to work. Once again, another creator from Japan, dubbed kind of Chrome Fast. And so we tested all this stuff, and we really thought, hey, Chrome is awesome. People are going to use it. What are they going to respond to, though? And so from a communication standpoint, what we really started to gravitate towards was this idea of speed was something that people really wanted in a browser. People wanted the internet to be faster. And they started to believe that actually the browser could actually impact that. And so we kind of ran with that, right? And so we said, OK, here's the data. You look at simplicity, beautiful spot, actually not that effective in actually getting people to engage with our product. So we're a big data-driven company. So speed became kind of the heralded position, and really Google Chrome kind of found its voice among the masses. And so we took that and we started to run with it. And in true Google fashion, we just went as fast as we could, as many times as we could. And for those of you in Sydney who have been down to Martin Place, you may have seen kind of the latest creative dubbed Chrome Fast. And Chrome Fast became kind of the handle for Chrome, but more importantly, it kind of became this worldwide brief to every single marketing person in Google. And it was basically, Chrome Fast is the idea. You guys figure out how to make it cool, make it fun, make it interesting, make it relevant to your marketplace, and then let's just see how everything works. We'll test it, and then we'll keep going with the stuff that we like. Once again, this test and iterate, ideas can come from anywhere philosophy in action. And so one of the first things we did out of the US was this idea called Chrome speed tests. Because once again, we wanted to show how fast Chrome was, so we just decided to see if we could show that through video, which at the time was kind of interesting. So I'll show this one more video. So other than the idea of just showing that it's fast, obviously Google likes to have fun with itself. And so personally, I think other than being beautifully shot, the idea of juxtaposing the speed of a potato versus the speed of an internet browser, we thought was kind of googly at the time. And it went on, we had a whole bunch of tests you can download, is Chrome faster than anything? I think one of the funnier things is, if those of you who know, there's another open source browser called Opera, who actually did a spoof on ours that was Opera's faster than a boiling potato. And it took them about, I don't know, a couple seconds to download a page, and I think about an hour and a half to boil a potato in a cabin in the woods. So it's always nice to be spoofed on in that sense. But I think the idea of really showing Chrome and speed in a different way was something we started to think about. I mean, easily we could have put Chrome fast on a boat, on a race car, on anything that people think is fast. But the idea of putting it on things like a potato or like small insects and things like that actually started to get people to laugh and think about, well, what does this Chrome fast really mean? And then we decided to kind of take it to another level and get engaging, because that's obviously, as the web progresses, engaging with people and getting them to interact with things is a big deal. And so we took this, we created this test or this game called Chrome Fastball, and I have a volunteer in the audience who we've pre-selected for political reasons, Craig Davis. Craig, please come on up here. And then, we're going to have Craig take this test and just give you an idea of what the Chrome Fastball is. And as we talked earlier, the record is 1 minute and 22 seconds. We think if Craig can do it in under 2 minutes, we're either going to give you, the nice people at Google Australia will give you your very own potato or some tickets to YouTube Symphony Orchestra. And so you'll see as we go through it, and I do think it's probably at the time or even now a very innovative, fresh way to look at using YouTube as a medium. I think start and go. Feel free to help at any moment in time.
Yeah, I think we might crowdsource this and see if all of us are smarter than one of us.
All potatoes for everybody.
Fast mode of transport, what do you think? Walking.
Good job.
Cool. Fastest ball you can think of. What kind of ball? What? Golf. Oh. Okay, there's no help from Google there. Right, okay. Any clues?
Korean.
How do you spell that? Okay. Cool. Bridge out of band names. Do I have to click that?
No, just click on the button.
B. Stop it. Right, okay. What's R? What? I can spell that, that's good. I. Okay. What's that? Devo?
I like the short name strategy. It's working well.
A? Yeah, short words are good. E, what's E? Eagles. This is not my musical taste, I hasten to add. Okay, is that it? Is that it? Three things that decrease in search results. Songs. Should be a lot, right? Do you agree? Songs. Less than songs. Come on, guys. Swords. I don't want to go back to. I don't go back to Jeff Cole and his alter ego. I don't want to do that. Obscure. Lamingtons. How about that? Please. Oh. You said anything under 3 minutes.
Under 3 minutes, right? We give you half a potato. Congratulations. Thank you, Craig. Thank you very much. Ooh, Chrome fast. You know, you are 31,011 out of the 145,000 players. So Lucinda Barlow, our lovely marketing lead in Australia, will figure out what a prize will be for all of you. Or at least Craig. So I think, you know, once again, I mean, I think the theme of really engaging people, having fun with it, but still rallying around this idea of Chrome fast. And these ideas are coming from all over the world, from all different types of groups, which I think is the beauty of how Google kind of does a similar crowdsourcing exercise around creative. I'm going to go into a little bit of a video mode here with a couple things. I want to show you the latest creative just to give you guys an idea of where this has evolved from that very first kind of Tron speed to kind of this kind of potato thing to where we are right now with a campaign called Browse as Fast as You Think. And it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just let it play for a second. I've never had so many technical difficulties in front of 500 people ever. So the plug is plugged into the computer. It's actually just not plugged into any kind of wall outlets where power comes from. But thank you, everybody. So I think you got the idea of browse as fast as you think. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But one of the things, once again, that I love about working at Google is how can we engage more people? How can we get more people to own this? Because, I mean, you got some of them, maybe you didn't get some of them, but the idea of actually making this your own and making it relevant to your market is always a lot of fun. So we created a user-generated tool, very simple thing. And this morning, as we were going through the presentation, we're like, we should do an Aussie one and see if you guys can relate to that one. So let's play that one real quick. Oh, that's not it, is it? So once again, 5 minutes in the office, we're able to kind of tweet and build our own little browse as fast as you think video, which I think is just something where as more and more people engage with the web, getting people engaged with their brand, not just by tweeting, but getting them to actually do something, to involve themselves in the product, I think is one of the things that we really believe in at Google. We also believe in power for laptops. So as we kind of go ahead, I think that where are we today? So it's been 2.5 years since that day when we were like, no one knows what a browser is. And I think we're far from done, but I think we're off to a good start. 2.5 years into this, I'm proud to say that about 100 million people around the world use Chrome. Now, in the whole internet universe or the global population of the world, that may not seem like a big deal. But as a marketer, the idea of getting 100 million people to do anything on an ongoing basis, I think is a pretty good accomplishment. I think to also put into perspective of where things are, if you look at iTunes, which I'm sure everyone loves iTunes, in its first 2 years, it got less than 20 million people to use it. Twitter took 3 years to get to 8 million. So at 100 million, we feel pretty confident that we still have something really special here in terms of a product and what people can do with it. We just really need to continue to test and iterate. How do we message it? How do we teach people what the tires in the car are good for, or what a browser can do for their web kind of browsing or interaction? But we're still not giving up, and we're still moving forward. And so as we push forward, once again, we're testing and iterating. We're trying new things, and we're trying to figure out how to get that message out in an interesting way. One of the things we just tested this holiday season, which we think went over really well, was this idea called Chrome for a cause. Right? So what we learned through all this testing and research is that people love to open tabs on browsers, and that tabs on Chrome open really fast. And you can actually open more of them than probably any other browser around and have it work well. So we created this thing, Chrome for a cause. And it's pretty simple. You sign up, and for every tab that you open, we're going to donate money to a charity category that you pick. So for me, I think I picked trees. I planted 3 trees in the holiday season. Honestly, as a marketing director of Asia, that's pretty weak. That's probably like 30 tabs. But I swear next year I will do a lot better. But at the end of the day, we donated $1 million over the course of around 2 weeks to charities around the world, getting people or having people pick the charities, whether it be vaccinations, clean water, environment, and using our product. Not rocket science, but I think once again, how do we get people to engage with this technology and make a browser a little bit more emotional, a little bit more meaningful to their everyday life? The other thing we did to kind of formalize our kind of approach to marketing is this idea called the Google Experiment Showcase. And I'll run this video and show you what it is. But basically, it's the idea that we believe that good ideas can come from anywhere. And it's a site where anyone with a good idea, any developer, any user who has something cool in HTML5 to show can upload, share it with the world, showcase it to other people. So let's take a look at that real quick.
These be Chrome experiments, matey.
So I'll kind of stop it there. I mean, but just to give you guys an idea that we really do believe that people better, smarter, or more interesting than us have better ideas of how to use our products, but also how to get them into or get other people interested in our products. One of the last things I want to show you is kind of probably one of the more popular experiments that came from the Google experiments, and it's this thing called Arcade Fire, which I will, oh, come on. I will try to load up and show you. And I think it's a really good example of what, when we talk about creativity meets technology, what can it actually manifest itself as? How can people like you, as a room full of creative people, wondering what they can learn from Google, I think this is a great example of it, if it will ever load. Okay, should I stop? Should I try again? Hold on, let's just go old school. Okay, we've lost internet. We've lost power. The ship is going down. All right, let me try one more thing, and then if not, we will get you guys out of here with some questions. It's not gonna work. Has anyone seen Arcade Fire? Okay, does anyone think it's cool? All right, that's good enough for me at this point. But I think at the end of the day, let me explain a little bit what it is, because I'll explain it to you, because that's always more interesting than watching the video itself, I'm sure. So Arcade Fire is this idea built around HTML5 where how can technology redefine the music experience, right? And it's this personalized video technology where you can type in your address, and it pulls in all types of API data around where you live, and street view cams, and maps, and it creates a personalized video around the Arcade Fire song for you. And what the beauty about this is, it didn't start like a technology project. It started with a group of people and a group of producers and musicians who said, how can we create a new music video experience? I mean, since MTV debuted Flock of Seagulls 30 years ago, really, or not Flock of Seagulls, but I think it's Radio Killed the Video Star. Video Killed the Radio Star, apologies. 30 years ago, nothing's really changed in terms of what a music video is. And I think they wanted to push the boundaries, and they knew nothing about technology. They didn't know what HTML5 was, they didn't know what an API was, but they knew they wanted to create something different, and they wanted it to be personal to every single person that watched it. And I think that's where it kind of started in terms of what was possible around technology. And it's not available, still. Okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to wrap soon. But I think, so the idea of Arcade Fire, I think for this room, really becomes pinnacle. Because when we started thinking about this idea of creativity meets technology, it's not like a bunch of creative directors figure out what technology does. Learn HTML5, learn Flash, learn Java. That's not what it's about. I think that we believe that technology can fundamentally open the box of constraints of how people live, how people interact with information, and how people actually experience brands and information. And if you start with the point, as a creative person, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? Whether it's a big problem, whether it's a small problem, whether you hate where the elevator button is for your office, or whether you hate that you have to actually drive your own car to work, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And then find someone to help solve that. Find an engineer. Ask an engineer how he or she would solve that problem. Or better yet, hire an engineer. Bring them into your office, because they think fundamentally differently, and they think in a way that at least lends some kind of point of view that at least I was never used to before I started working here. And I think, if anything, those are some of the big takeaways that I would love for you to have. The first is that ideas can come from anywhere. I've worked in the creative community for a long time, and I think for a long time, like I said, creative people were like engineers. Nobody understood us. You don't really get what we do. You don't really get how the magic comes out. And I think the world is starting to open up. And so the more that as creative people, we open up to the ideas that you can be inspired from anywhere around the world, that someone else may have a good idea that you can build on, is something that, as simple as it sounds, is something that makes Google an incredibly successful company. I think being open to these new thinkers. I mean, as I've worked in this space for 15 years, I meet people at Google who are right out of college. They're not really producers. They're not really copywriters. They're not really coders. They're not really account people. But you know what? They're freaking smart. They get technology, they have good ideas, and they want to help. And there's always a part of me that always wants to put them in a box and say, actually, you just do this, and we'll figure this out. But you have to kind of resist that kind of categorism to say that you have a good idea and no one else has a good idea. And I think that's something that I've always believed, but I think at Google has kind of just exploded in my face, because every meeting I go to, there are people that have amazing ideas that I never would have imagined. And so I think being open to the fact that ideas can come from anywhere, from anybody, is the first thing I would really love for you to take away from. The second is this idea of experiment and iterate. And I think the idea of speed for Google is key, whether it's speed in our products or whether it's speed to market. We want to get things in the market, we want to test them, we want to know how people react to them so that we can make them better. And so for us, the idea of the 4 to 5 month brief and then call me later with an idea, it's not how at least we like to operate. I mean, we believe, obviously, like every good agency-client relationship, there needs to be a higher level of collaboration. There needs to be more sharing, but there needs to be more speed. And I'll say, quite honestly, as a client for the last 15 years, that is the hardest part for clients and agencies to grapple with, is can you get to market faster? Can you get to a starting point that is an imperfect idea and then go from there and make it something meaningful in the future? But I think it's something that in the future will be critical to your success in terms of how fast you get to market, how fast you can react to kind of this real-time consumer, and then how fast you can kind of change your message or evolve your message to meet that need. And I think we've seen tons of examples, things from Old Spice to interactive gaming to all types of things where engagement, speed to market are the things that are actually competitive advantages now in the creative space. And so in terms of Google, that's, like I said, we're not creative experts. We're kind of technology experts, but our idea is just getting great people in a room, talking about ideas, and just testing stuff, and being really humble about the fact that we don't know everything. And so I think that's the one thing, that's the general sense that I would love to leave you guys with, and also the fact that Google technology works much better than how we're going on right now. But in terms of Google, I think one of the beauties of Google is no one knows what's coming next from Google. Even, I don't even know. Half of us that work at Google don't even know, because there's some engineer sitting at a desk trying to think of an amazing idea that we've never heard of. But that's the beauty of Google, and I think that's, once again, the idea that ideas come from anywhere. Before I leave, I think a short glimpse into the future, I do want to show you one final TV spot, which is a spot that the Japan team came up with for Chrome, kind of along the lines of what tabs can do for browsers, and along the lines of how do we make our products, Google products, more interesting, more meaningful, and more emotional to everyday people. So I'm going to show, if all else, one more video. So that's all I think my computer can handle. I think I have